Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet, and today we have the return of Carrie Ann Baade. She has a new book called Scissors and Tears, and it's really amazing. It's her first art book, I believe. Really amazing. Looks great. And we're talking books. We talked books. I did the interview already, and it's a really great one. It's really fun, and anybody that ever wanted to do an art book, this is the podcast to listen to. Yeah, it's an ordeal. But oh yeah, what is the date? The date is the 23rd of May, 2023. See, I said it. I did it. I can do it. Let's see what's going on here. I finished one of the commissions I'm working on, and almost done with another one, starting another one. So I'm getting things done. I am working on some new sculptures that are going to be really cool. I'm excited about those. So I got a lot of irons in the fire. And yeah, just grinding it out, getting things done, playing catch up, taking advantage of this year. I said I was going to get everything done, and I'm getting it done, damn it. So you won't have to hear me talk about it after this year, I promise. I'm not going to keep talking about it. Let's see. I guess that's it. There's not much going on other than just playing catch up here and getting stuff done, crossing things off my list. If you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/darkartsociety, and you get, for as little as $1, you get, if you join at the $5 level and above, I believe, you get a 20% discount of skulls from Skull Shop. This is my child skull I have from them. Really great. Let's see. SKULLSHOPPE.com. They're great. Love them. Oh, yeah. Yeah, check this out. I'm excited about this. So now you can do subscription billing on the Patreon. So you can join at for like a year and get a discount. So that's going to be really cool. I'm excited about that. And the thing I'm super excited about is that they're offering free trials. So I'm they're offering free 7-day trials on Patreon. So I've been asking them that for years now, and I'm excited to be able to offer that on our Patreon, on the Dark Art Society, and on my personal Patreon, which is patreon.com/ChetZar. And if you haven't subscribed to my Patreon and you're a fan of my work, just go do the free trial and you'll trip out at all the work that's on there. There's so much work on there. People don't realize. I think people thought I stopped. I don't know. I just went away or something. But I've been saving all my progress. All my current work has just been on my Patreon. And I'll release some kind of like major pieces on social media eventually. But people on my Patreon, they get to see it as it's conceived. That's our new dog, Tater. Hey, leave it. Hey, Tater, leave it. Sorry. Yeah, so you on my Patreon, you could see it like from the conception to the drawing on the canvas to every stage. At the end of every day, I post pictures of everything I've done for the day. And then I do time lapses, I do tutorials, I do all kinds of stuff on there. So now if you go there, you can join for free for 7 days. And that's patreon.com/ChetZar. And the Dark Art Society one is patreon.com/darkartsociety. And if you join the Dark Art Society Patreon, you get your name read on the air. And I think we only have one this week, and that is Rob Elrod. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. That's it. I guess that's all. Yeah, anyway, the great interview with Carrie. Great to talk to her after all these years. A couple of years it's been. 2 or 3 years. 3, 4. I don't even remember. But her book's awesome. Scissors and Tears. We'll talk all about it. Talk about the process of making books, art books, and hope you enjoy it. All right, here we go. Hello, Carrie.
Hi, Chet. How are you?
Good. How are you? Now, you were about to tell me a bug story, so you need to tell I wanted you to share that with the audience.
Well, my husband and I arrived from Florida to Warsaw 4 days ago, and we're staying with family, and we're a little jet lagged, but the room that we are staying in had a bug infestation, and it was like a phantom bug situation where it starts to get light in Poland around 4:30 in the morning, and the bugs would come out with the sun. So about 5 o'clock in the morning, they would start marching from the wall over our faces towards this window. And this happened for 2 or 3 nights in a row, which just made that transition of adjusting to jet lag even more surreal.
That's terrible.
Because it did look, we couldn't find the source of them. So my sister-in-law was really suggesting that maybe I had spontaneously manifested these bugs, or they came with us.
What kind of bugs?
Which is still possible.
True.
They were like black flies and ants, and it was
a bunch of different bugs.
Yeah, and they were very hard to kill, and then they would also play dead and then resurrect themselves.
Oh my God.
So
sounds kind of hellish.
It made things more surreal.
So you're in Poland right now. You have
Yes.
relatives? Are you Polish?
No, I've done all of my genealogy, and I'm woefully British. But
Okay.
my husband is from Warsaw, and his family is there, and they're so generous that they speak English impeccably. So,
really?
Yeah, they're wonderful people, and we enjoy visiting them very much.
That's cool.
And the highlight of this trip for me, I will get to go to Sanok and go to the Beksinski Museum.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you went there yet. No, not yet.
No, but I'll be posting.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Excited.
I'm so jealous. I've seen some in person. I have seen some pieces in person, and they're a lot different than I thought they would be as far as technique wise. At least the paintings I saw were a lot of like little, tiny little strokes. It was almost like cross hatching.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really weird. I don't know if that was all of his paintings or if those were just some of his paintings, but it's like everything. It looked like he did it all with little teeny lines. Really weird.
I'll tell you soon. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I've seen any in person. Very often he's going with family to exhibitions, and the aesthetic in Poland is very different. They love death. They love dark art. So like his mother, who's 90 this year, she loves Beksinski. She'll go to the exhibition. Yeah, it's all accepted.
That's so cool.
It's not like in America.
Right.
Yeah. So my work is pretty normal here. It's not as dark as some of the work, and they like it. So I've really enjoyed working with my gallery here. So.
That's cool. So I've heard that Europe they don't like dark art in Europe in general. And all different. Right. Eastern Europe, I guess, is a different story.
And I work with Bader Gallery. They've been doing Magical Dreams. I think they're on Magical Dreams 6 this cycle. It's like every other year they do a cycle of exhibitions. Mm-hmm. And the gallerist was telling me this story about how they just did an art fair in Paris, and there's still a challenge just doing representational art in Europe, which is like strangely familiar to the United States situation. And that all of that faction of representational fantastic artists was looking to Poland. Like they're now looking to exhibit more in Poland because they feel like that might be the more hopeful or next step.
Wow. That's so cool.
But that's just the dialogue. So yeah.
What a trip. It's so weird. Yeah. Dos Diablos. I think we were just talking about this on a podcast recently. Dos Diablos was telling me how in Mexico, it's like, they hate dark art.
Really?
Yeah, which you'd think they have Day
really
of the Dead.
unexpected.
It's like
Yeah.
hardcore Catholicism, which is very gothic and dark, I think. But yeah, he said that people just are not into it at all, which it trips me out. But who knows? These things are strange.
It's, I think it comes in waves, and if you're consistent, you'll be there when the pendulum comes back, right?
Yeah.
And the pendulum comes back and forth more and, faster and faster.
What else are we going to do anyway? I mean, this is what we do. You deal with it. You deal with it, Well, look what I got.
Oh, hey, thank you so much.
Yes,
that's beautiful.
It's such a great book. It's amazing. And it was it's just beautiful. It's a really beautiful book. It really, gave me a lot of insight to your work. Seeing the kind of crazy technique you have. Your technique is so weird. Like there's nobody, I don't think anybody else I've never heard of anybody else doing this, to where you kind of collage and then you paint the collage. You use your collage as your like conceptual drawing in a way. And then you paint that but you change it a little bit. You flesh things out. I'm getting that right, correct?
Oh yeah. You're just reminding me, I would be in conversations like in about 2007 or 8 with Travis Louis, and he'd be like, you need more price points. You should sell your drawings. And I'm like, I don't have any drawings. I just have these collages. And at the time I was never going to show anyone the collage.
Oh,
wow. I was embarrassed about it.
That's a cool thing.
But at the same time, I really wanted to articulate it and show the origin. I didn't want it to look like pastiche.
Right.
Or, they're more of an homage.
Yeah, it's I would think that as a collector, you'd be way interested in the collage work also, because it's like, it's like a sketch.
That hasn't happened yet. I still have all of the collages. I did end up exhibiting them.
Oh, okay.
I have a retrospective coming up in the fall, and that's like the first time probably the general public will see the collages. They've been exhibited a little bit.
Okay. Have you tried to sell them?
They're still too intimate. Like I'm really attached to the collage. Huh. Like I love paper. I collected paper even as a child. Like I would collect images or postcards from exhibits in elementary school.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think part of selling the work and you don't get the work back was, well, at least I have the collage.
Right. Yeah.
So, but the other side of it is I feel like everything must go. So at some point it's okay.
Yeah. Right.
And then I have to go. The other side of that is I don't think anybody really owns my work. I think they're just adopting it and keeping it for me, but it's really mine.
Yeah. Right. It will always be.
Yeah.
They'll always be your babies.
Yes.
What? Yeah. So a lot to talk about. For people who haven't heard your previous podcast, could you just do a quick overview of you being, you're one of the, you're one of our very few kind of bridges into art academia, because you're a professor.
Yes.
And you're legit.
So far, I'm a full professor at Florida State University. I've been a professor there for 17 years. And
Damn.
So I've survived the tenure process, and
that's amazing.
Becoming a professor.
Congrats.
And I grew up, my early life was in New Orleans. I was raised in Colorado. I went to the Art Institute of Chicago, but also went to the Florence Academy of Art for a year and studied classical realism. And then my graduate degree is from the University of Delaware, where I was studying. They have a wonderful art conservation program where I was taking classes that were cross-listed for like undergrads who would go into art conservation, as well for graduate students of art, and learning technique, which just wasn't, it was really quite unheard of to be teaching technically. And so we would do we weren't working from the surface of an image. We were trying to reconstruct historical paintings like a Vermeer or a Manet or a Signorelli or a Botticelli, like what were the pigments, what were the processes, if Vermeer used a poplar board, we would use a poplar board.
Oh, cool.
And look at the forensic technology to assess what the exact palette was. So it wasn't trying to take contemporary materials and recreate a historical painting, but take what this closest approximation of, what Vermeer used and make those choices.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like fun.
It was. We were students of a man named Hilton Brown, and he was very, very, very rigorous and very demanding. And it was more like torture, but it was fun torture. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess as a full-fledged adults, it might seem a little more fun than when you're young and fired up. And
I know I can't teach like Hilton did now. Like, you're not allowed to be that demanding.
Oh, okay.
Like, we would get yelled at. He didn't throw anything, but he would humiliate you and make you work to the highest level. But it paid off.
Right.
Like, there was a right way to do things, and if it wasn't that way, you did it again.
Wasn't that Bern Hogarth's supposed to be like that? Bern Hogarth? I
don't know who that is.
You've seen his stuff.
Oh, probably.
It's like he's got this book called Dynamic
yeah.
Figures, and they're very stylized. It doesn't look like anybody else's.
Yeah.
I think he was like that. Like, he chewed tobacco, and if he didn't like I think Travis told me this. If he didn't like what you were doing, he would just spit his tobacco juice on your drawing. Really nasty.
He's an amazing draftsman. He's allowed, right?
Yeah, I guess, apparently. I guess if that's the price to learn from him, so be it. But so anyway, just so people have a little bit of background on you, and then and you when did you start showing? I want to get into the book. I want to get into the book and stuff, but I want to sort of get like some of this basic stuff out of the way, because I think you were on like, how many years ago? It was a long time ago. Last time you were on.
The last time I was on the podcast was before the pandemic, so it was at least 400 years ago. I think that was just 2018 or 19.
Yeah,
could have been 17, but and then you asked about exhibiting. So
when did you start showing, and how did you kind of do that whole teaching and having an art career at the same time? It seems crazy, like a lot of work.
So I will say I was one of those few, I don't know what percentage of the population of artists were born and became conscious and knew they wanted to be an artist. So it was always my goal to be an artist. But by age 6, I was trying to figure out how I was going to pay for it. Like, I always was told you were going to starve or die in poverty.
Right.
So I was trying to figure out what other profession I would do and pair it with painting. And yet I met all these professors by the time I was in school. I was like 18. I'm like, well, I can do what you can do. Even they told me it was impossible, but I set my sight on that at that age. At the same time, after graduating from the Art Institute of Chicago, I started doing historic restoration and painting, like restoration of historic buildings and interiors.
Oh, wow.
So painting on the side, I was painting for myself, because in art school, it was all assignments, and I only wanted to paint for myself. So I really didn't exhibit in my 20s. And then I went to graduate school. So I feel like I didn't paint a painting that was worth a damn till I was 33. And that was about the same time that MySpace was coming out, which is when we met.
Right.
And then there was just this amazing blooming or birth of strange dynamic artists and the dialogue that was happening through the democratization of art on the internet.
Yeah.
So it was I felt like at age 34, all of a sudden there was a worldwide community of weirdos who were making really cool art, and we could see, we had faces and names and art, and it was extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have like a totally unique perspective that, because of your, connection to academia. You're a professor. You also an art professor, and you kind of came around at the time when the internet was having a huge influence on artists, and artists were able to like show their work online. And but you having that art academic background and experiencing that, I think that's really unique. And being an artist on top of that, I can't think of anybody else. I mean, I'm sure there's some people, but not anybody in our scene that I know of.
Thank you for saying our scene, because I still I consider you, a peer and a colleague, and it's, has been wonderful to exhibit with you.
Oh yeah.
So I guess
sure.
I'm a bridge. So I bridge to classical realism, but they would never claim me as an alumni.
We'll claim
bridge. Thank you. I bridge to second wave pop surrealism, dipped my toes in the dark arts. And then around 2011 or 12, I exhibited more with the visionary artists. And I don't know, I think now might be the time when I'm just going to be me.
Yeah, right.
I'll be 50 soon. And I think I really feel, I don't know, I think I used to give birth to bodies of work like a cat or a dog, like you're going to have a litter of kittens. And now I feel more like frog spawn or a spider. Like I feel like I have so many bodies of work that I'm just dying to create.
Yeah.
And I need the time to do it. So I'm not as interested in maybe other people's projects for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're one of, I always just think of you as one of the guys. Not, I appreciate it. You know what I mean? In that scene, you're one of the people in that scene, one of the artists that we all know the names of them. They all kind of started around that time. It's almost like, it got labeled pop surrealism, I suppose, is the most widely used term for that scene, but I don't know. It's almost like a class of whatever time period that was. I don't know. It just seems like it's its own thing, and a lot of different styles of art within that thing, but we all kind of related in some way. We're showing, I guess, because we were showing at the same galleries, and showing together and stuff.
The other thing the internet did, I hope the background noise isn't too much.
No.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm in a hotel lobby.
No problem.
That before, artists were so isolated, and I had a gallery, prior to working with the pop surrealists, but the artists were so isolated, they didn't really talk to each other. You just talked to the gallerist.
Right.
And with MySpace and the internet, we all, I don't know, it was fast friends.
Right.
And there's still some artists I have to think if I've ever met them in person. And I'm like, no, we've never met in person.
Right.
But I collect your work and I love you. And I have watched everything you've posted online for 20 years. So it's a strange synergy. And I also feel like artists could organize a lot better and have more power and more control now.
Yeah.
Some of the old ways of thinking that artists need to be isolated or poor or not help each other, I think defeats us.
Right.
And I think so many of the shows that you've curated prove that community wins.
Yeah.
You're one of the nicest people. I think being nice wins. So
thanks. Yeah. Well, same goes to you. And you've also done curated some incredible shows, like museum shows that traveled around. That's pretty amazing.
I try to make challenges. You come up with an inquiry like, why is this art not in academia, or why is this art not in a museum? And it was a big challenge in 2011. I curated the first version of Cute and Creepy. And part of that was I didn't want to do it for the university, it was for the students too, but I wanted to see how many people I could bring to the gallery. So I used all of these tools of self-promotion that were also happening with the rise of online media. Kathy Olivas is one of my favorite people to watch at that time for how to promote and share work and advertise. So 11,000 people came to the gallery in 1 month.
Wow.
For that show. And that's 3 times more than had ever attended at any one time.
That's what
I just blew the doors off. It was cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's what I've always contended is like, this is the artwork that people want to see, and the people that seem to run the museums, they don't give a shit if people want to see it. They're kind of like, you might want to see this, but we're going to show you this because we think this is what you should be looking at. You know what I mean? Like when Greg
Escalante.
Greg Escalante. Yes. I was telling him about I'm sure we probably talked about all this stuff on the other podcast, but my memory's for shit.
Well, we're just giving a little,
yes, we're giving a little background before we get into the book.
Because we have new material.
Yes. But I know that with the conjoined shows, I was talking to Greg, like, you got to get this in a museum. This would be amazing. And he's like, they don't care. I'm like, you make so much money. People want to see this. These shows are huge. Like, you can't get the people at the conjoined shows. You couldn't. It was too many people to fit in the gallery, and there'd be people outside. And he's like, they don't care. It's not they're like the tastemakers, and
right.
Their board makes the decisions, and they decide who gets shown, and it's not about what the public necessarily wants to see. And so I was like, okay, that's how. And
there are these rare exceptions. I think some of the rare exceptions were Edward Gorey's exhibition at the Wadsworth Athenaeum. Mm-hmm. And this is not even, but Tim Burton showing at MoMA. Tim Burton was showing at the same time as Marina Abramovich was doing The Artist is Present.
Wow, yeah.
And I was there for the Tim Burton show. So I saw it, but like I didn't really connect with that work at that time. I'm much more into her now. Once she became unpopular, she became very interesting to me.
I saw her documentary. Like I thought, oh, she's some full of shit, one of these lame ass people that's full of shit. And I saw the documentary, totally changed my view of her. I was like, she's legit. I'm like,
her audiobook is fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, I recommend that to all of my students.
Oh, okay. I'll get that.
The ending is a little 21st century. It talks about her school that she's going to have that fails and how she helps Lady Gaga. In fact, if you use it as a drinking game, like if you took a shot every time she said Lady Gaga, you'd probably be dead. But she's still the premier performance artist of the last century and this time. And it's narrated by her. So I love when artists perform audiobooks in their own voice.
Yeah, me too.
Like Patti Smith, Just Kids is phenomenal.
So okay. What were we talking about? What was I saying before this?
It's with the Del Toro show.
The Del Toro show. That's what I was going to say.
That really, that changed the possibility again, but it had to be through someone whose name mattered and their vision mattered.
Right.
So, I think we have to just consistently chip away at, be rebellious, be creative, put work where it's not expected to be, and see what kind of change is possible. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit at a time. Chipping away is the perfect way to put it. Okay. Now we got all this stuff out of the way. Let's talk about your new book.
Books. Oh, okay.
And books in general, because we both came out with books. I came out with mine.
About the same time.
Yeah.
Last fall.
I don't remember. Yeah. My memory's so bad.
The official date for mine is November. And I realize this now because I realized I could have applied for some book awards that I found out about. Yeah. Like all the deadlines were January 1st. And like, I was so busy, I had no idea.
I haven't even really been able to promote mine or anything. It's like barely.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in academia, and especially in academia in Florida. And I need to start book promotion now.
Right.
So
that's what you're doing here.
Yes, thank you. And I think I'm best when I'm giving advice to other people because I make some exquisite mistakes. So if anybody out there is thinking about having a book one day, I feel like this is the podcast for you.
Oh, yes.
I want to talk about my failure.
Yes, everybody
who's success. Yeah,
everybody
how to do it.
Who's ever thought about putting out an art book, especially, this is the podcast to listen to, because I want to hear about your experience, because my experience, I've talked about it a lot on the podcast.
Oh, you
It
have?
was,
Okay.
I mean, I'll talk about it just kind of to you, but, on here, but, it was a nightmare for me. It was like, I wouldn't have done it if I knew how hard it was going to be, because I kickstarted it,
Mm-hmm.
and I over committed to all my rewards. I underpriced the book by about half. It ended up
Mm-hmm.
being about twice as expensive. It took 5 years, 5 years
Oh,
past the due
okay.
date. It was,
Oh my God.
so it
Wow.
was 5 years of just like sweating it and
Well,
suffering.
5 is your favorite
It's,
number.
I know,
So
it's
yeah.
like at the end of it, I was like, oh, of course, 5 years. But, it was such a nightmare. It was such a nightmare, but I'm really happy. The book came out amazing. But, so
And this is book number 2 for you, right?
yeah, yeah, because you
Okay.
wrote, an essay for my first book, which is so amazing.
In fact, I was writing that essay right as I was doing everything for Cute and Creepy. And I, it's one of those things where I try to tell myself with one part of my brain, you've never done this before. You've never written an essay for anyone. And then on the other side of your brain, you're like, just don't know that. Like, just do it. It'll be fine.
You'd never written an essay for another artist before? Oh my God, I'm
No.
so honored. It's so amazing
Yeah.
too. It's like just, I was like, beautifully written and perfect for the book. I thought it was so good.
A lot of, I mean, I studied the work and I feel like I trust and believe in your work. So that's number one. You want a writer who
Right.
trusts and believes in you. But the other part of that is Connolly, the writer Connolly, he has a book on modern art and the grotesque. And so, yeah, some of the deepest thoughts there are based off of that writer's theories.
Mm.
Because what is it about grotesque art that is gripping and intimate and vulnerable,
Hmm.
but also digs in a little deeper and twists?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Whenever someone gets my Black Magic book, I'm always like, read the text. Make sure you read the
thanks.
text, because people don't read text in art books. And that's, I think it's one of the coolest things about the book is the text stuff in there. It's actually really, really good. So thank you for that. I appreciate you
Oh,
doing
you're
that.
welcome. Thank you. I think that would be advice number one. Number one is if you're going to have a book, you need to get all of your art books out and read them
Yeah,
finally.
right.
Look at the page count, look at the quality of the paper,
Yeah.
how many essays, how much text to image, how many images. So I hope everybody has at least 100 art books in their house. I mean, you should.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then narrow it down to your top 3 or 4.
See, I should have done that.
Really?
I mean, my biggest problem was I did not know. I knew what we were going for, because mine's a little different. Mine's like a dungeon master, Dungeon and
Oh,
Dragons.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a dungeon master monster guide.
Oh, that's so
It's
cool.
like, it tells this, it's not an art, it's an art book. I call it an art book, or masquerading as a field guide.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it's presented like a field guide. It's got territories where the characters live. Because what happened is I had Mike Carell, the guy who used to do the podcast with me, and he directed my documentary. He's a really great writer. So he interviewed me about every single painting I've ever done, and I just found that I knew, like, because I'm all like totally intuitive. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just kind of doing what I feel. And so once he interviewed me, it was like, I knew all this stuff about the paintings, like for sure, like, oh, this means this means this. And I'd never verbalized it or thought about it. It was so weird. That's what got the whole idea of starting this, presenting the book in the way, in this way, that it's like a field guide, like a National Geographic field guide or whatever. And so it's a little different in that way. So I kind of didn't really have that, I had my Black Magic book, which I liked a lot. I thought that was like a great looking book. Everything about it was good. So I kind of went with that. But that's what got me tripped up for 5 years, is like I couldn't see it. Like I couldn't see how it was laid out. and it just was, it was a nightmare. But so that's a great idea though. Getting your favorite art books out, laying them out. This is the kind of thing I've done when I've been in bands and I was recording music, is like, if someone's producing your work, you kind of give them a few albums that you just love the sound of the guitar or the sound of the bass, so they kind of know where your head's at. So what were your favorite art books? Did you have do you remember which ones you kind of inspired you?
My book is published by Last Gasp. So there was also, sorry, by La Luz de Jesus.
Yes.
So sorry, I'm jet lagged. And while I have many, many books, and some of the books I looked at were not La Luz de Jesus Press, I really loved, and it was surprising, I really loved Chris Mars's book. It was simple, the layout, where the image is on the page, where the text is, the size of the font. I really did look to Chris Mars's book. And then it's interesting because in the middle of finishing my book, I was asked to write for his book.
Oh,
so
wow.
that was a beautiful exchange. And then I was really shocked how incredible every single Daniel Martin Diaz book
I don't think I've seen any of his books.
His earliest book is impeccable. His latter ones are not with La Luz. He's publishing them on his own. But every single book has incredible essays from museum professionals with outstanding essays. Every once in a while, no names, but someone will have a writer that you can just tell they didn't know what they were doing. And I'm like, or even an artist who's selling for millions of dollars. I'm like, this is really the worst text I've ever read.
Right.
And his essays were exquisite. I was shocked. So this, maybe I can confess, I am a person who I'm much more inclined to look at the pictures than read the words.
I think we're all visual artists.
Yeah. And then what is the expectation with the words? What are we talking about? So I would say number 2 is if you're going to have text, are you writing?
Right.
Or is someone else writing for you, or both? How many essays are there? What is the word count? And then you just can't have a writer write about anything.
Right.
They really need direction. And unless someone else is directing the book, then, hey, you get to, it's hard to do this as an artist. It's I need you to write about X.
Right.
And so you got to give them an assignment. You have to draw them a map and then let them go.
So you planned this map out? Did you oversee the whole thing and were kind of
I did.
Okay. Did you have any collaborators with that, or were you just kind of left on your own?
I would say a book is a team sport.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was driving.
Okay.
So I feel like I made tons of mistakes, but I did it all in a year.
Wow.
And
that's impressive.
The way it started, I think I was book pregnant for much longer. I felt like I was gestating, but nothing was happening. And then another professor who was a friend, he asked me what I was up to. And I said, I'd just written a memoir. And he said, oh, well, if you ever want a book written about you, give me the memoir and I could easily write your art book. And I wasn't going to do that because my memoir can never be released while I'm a professor. I've looked into this, other women who wrote memoirs, too much information. Louise Brooks wrote a memoir that was called Riding Naked on My Goat. And it was so inflammatory. She destroyed the book herself, and it's only known through other people who recounted what they read. And I love that. And I feel like there may be some parallels, or I aspire to.
Oh my God, right? I want to read this.
So that was nothing he was ever going to get his hands on. And then, it was sort of like the sperm that fertilized the egg. He got me going because it was oh, well, he'll write and he has a PhD. So now we're off to the races. That's not how it turned out though, but at least he got this whole project going and I'm very grateful for that. He didn't end up being on the project in the end. I did enlist the top writer at least from my point of view, the top writer in the United States on female surrealists.
Oh, cool.
So those are more the historical ones, but she is a professor at Bard, and that's Susan Aberth. And she wrote a beautiful essay for the book. So that one was like, great. But
I just got the book and I hadn't had time to read it. I skimmed it, but and I did read a little bit about some of your process, but I will read it. I'll definitely will read
Thank you.
Because it's beautiful. Anyway, keep going.
Susan, the other author, she put me up to the challenge of writing for the book. And I was terrified, like total cold sweat. Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't write my own book. But she told me to write about my process. And that's truly your own. Like, nobody can write about what you do in this space better than you can. And so I feel like I could write anything now because that was so hard.
Wow.
Two of the things that helped with that, I felt like, I'm an academic. I felt like I needed some sources, like something that would give me some ladder rungs to climb up. So there's a book on technique, like the theory of technique. I'm going to get the name wrong. I'll remember in a minute, but this book, I was very lucky. It came out about the same time I was writing, and it was fantastic. Oh, maybe you can look.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I was gonna look.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick. So sorry.
Wait a minute. Okay. Anna Wall, Selena Chambers, Susan L. Aberth. No. Yeah,
no, sorry, it's a footnote. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, I'll never find that.
Yeah, let me get that. Yeah, there it is. It's Technique Theory, A New Language for Art. And the author is, my phone is loading.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah, I know. Henry Statton.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful day when you get a book crush. So I was able to write him and say, like, your new book came out on Technique Theory for Art, and I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, cool.
I totally recommend the book for anybody who's fought with the idea that technique was good or bad or not supported. He just gave me some ways to talk about the importance of craft.
Can you say it again? Because I'm going to write that down.
Oh, sure.
I'm definitely going to get this book. I'm sorry.
I thought it was pretty comprehensive to read, and I felt like it was good for artists. It wasn't just for philosophers.
Right.
Statton, Technique Theory, A New Language for Art.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And, it's also that, what is technique? Technique is a bunch of practitioners trying something and failing. So when you learn a technique, you are gaining knowledge from all of these other failures. And there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, your art can't just be technique. There has to be content.
Right.
There has to be emotion and feeling and ideas and a lot more. But I felt like if we're going to talk about process, you have to talk about, what makes you unique? What is your process? What is your technique? So
did you, I found that while Mike was making the documentary about me, I had to really think about my work and the book. I had to really self-analyze and think in ways about my own work that I'd never thought about ever. It was like, whoa, it really, I feel like at the end, especially the end of the documentary, it was like, man, it was like going to therapy in a way. It was like, I felt like a different person at the end because I understood myself so much more. And so did you go through that kind of process, or were you already, you're not a dummy like me, and you already know about your artwork because you're so smart. Your PhD, you're smart.
Rule number one. No, I don't have a PhD.
Oh, okay.
Just a master's.
You just merely a master's.
Yeah. Those are a big difference, but I think, I'll say it this way. I screwed up so bad because I don't really like school. Like, I hated high school, and now I've screwed up so bad I'm in school for the rest of my life. But I feel like, I haven't stopped going to school. So it is constantly humiliating and constantly challenging. And like, I learned how to spell when I was 30. So yeah, I'm finally getting somewhere at around age 50. Like, things are like, writing is starting to make sense. The knowledge of the English language better, you know. So I would say, for myself, I had at least 3 existential crises doing the book, at least 3. And then, yeah, it's all therapy. It's all self-knowledge, self-awareness. You know, it's another level of consciousness. And I mean, I think that way about every interview. If you get really good interview questions, I learned so much about myself.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm always interested in the assignment. And, you know, that's another thing, is if you have been interviewed a lot, you can read all of your own interviews to get some of the content you want for what you need to write. You've already been doing the work the whole time. You just have to go back and put it all together.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how things are floating around in your head and you know them. And until someone asks you, you never verbalize them. And then you verbalize them and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know I knew that. Like, when I found out I had synesthesia, I have a flavors. Like,
so, but does the number 5 have a color and a flavor?
No, it doesn't have a color. I've got the worst one. It's called Luxico. I forgot the name, but it's flavors. Like, names have flavors. Like, Carrie tastes like cranberry juice. It's just,
that's great.
And it's like, I mean, strongly. And I'd been doing it since probably, I mean, as long back as I could remember, for sure 5 years old, maybe before. But I'd been doing it, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized I was doing it. Every time I heard a word, like I heard someone say Kathy, I was like, that tastes like milk. Or I heard Mary, it tastes like a raw, cold hot dog from the fridge. It's like,
wow,
it's like really weird, specific, shitty 70s junk food. And, but it was like, and it was before synesthesia was kind of in the mainstream, really. Like, I didn't know what it was, and it was like funny, and I'd tell people at work. And then I started looking it up, and it kind of became like a thing. Like, people kind of know what synesthesia is, but they, you know, most people have the cool kind where they see sounds or colors, misspelled words, or read and stuff like that. But
well, this might also relate. Now, as a college professor, we talk a lot about neurodivergence, and that's only a categorization that I can tell has been in existence for like 20 years.
Right.
But that encompasses everything from ADD, whatever that is, to autism. But I think reading more about that has elucidated for me is like, you know, artists, I mean, they're kind of like their own species. We are differently thinking. We're differently, you know, ordered. And being a creative, I think, is really understudied. But if they really tapped into it and figured it out, they might ruin it. But I think, you know, in general, you know, our weirdness works for us.
Right.
And it's a value.
Yeah. It's our superpower.
Aside from, I tell my students, some of their superpowers are disassociating and ghosting. You know, the imagination is infinite, and you got to be careful in there, because it's not always a safe place.
You and get lost.
They got much better at disassociating during COVID. So trying to get them to embody and be here and recognize they have a body. Because I feel like, I know for myself, when I was in undergrad, I honestly thought of myself as a giant eyeball connected to an arm. I didn't have a body, and I certainly didn't take care of myself.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, I don't think I count as synesthesia, but from the time I started painting figures from life when I was 15 till I was 22, I saw light around people that was colors, and I heavily graphed and categorized personality traits and types of behaviors with colors. And what might be auras.
Yeah.
And then I had to put it away. Like, I made myself stop because I was just getting way too weird. Like, I couldn't have conversations with people without talking about the colors around them.
Yeah. My wife, she sees them. She's always like, you can't see that. I'm like, no. You don't see that? I mean, all of that stuff is related, you know, the synesthesia and people might say they're hallucinations. I wouldn't call them hallucinations. I don't think that gives the proper, they're weird and we don't know what they are, but they're not just hallucination is like saying it's just bullshit. It's all in your head. And I think there's more to it than that.
The way I explain it now is we learn that trees communicate through their canopy and their roots. Mm-hmm. And that's scientifically backed up.
Right.
I think that science has not yet detected our roots and our canopy.
Right.
I feel like we are definitely communicating at levels that are much more sophisticated because I have too many examples of them.
Yeah. It's like people that, you know, like you or me, we've experienced this stuff, and it's like, whenever they come up with a scientific study that proves it, we're like, yeah, we'll shit, Sherlock. Yeah. we're like, yeah, we already knew that. But, you know, it does need to be proven for everybody else who doesn't experience it, because if you can't, you know, you can't blame people for not believing it if they haven't had the experience. You know what I mean? But
again, it's like being a different species.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is, like, you know, creating art is kind of like a form of synesthesia in a way, because what we're doing is often it's like we're putting together things that don't normally go together in a certain way to make a new thing. And so, you know, the synesthesia is like a crossing of two types of two senses, stimuli or whatever. And, coming up with kind of like a new way of sensing. And that's
I definitely think artists are synthesizers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's interesting. And it's just funny that it's so wrong that the world is just like not suited to us whatsoever. I think about this all the time. It's like, I feel like I'm living in a world that is made for a different type of person than me. And it's such a struggle to just kind of get along in this world, like with paperwork and things, math and paying bills and doing all these things that I find incredibly difficult. I can't keep them all together in my head, you know?
I've been a better and better muggle, and I need to stop. Yeah. Like, I feel like I maxed out on the aptitude for being highly functional, and now I need to take it down a lot.
Well, I guess you have to as part of your career, you know, as a teacher in a way, right?
Yeah, I have to hold a lot of other people together. Yeah, and also my husband is deeply intelligent and deeply creative. He's our chair of theater. And out of the two of us, I mean, he has an engineering mind. He can also fix everything in the house in addition to understanding philosophy. But he's more deeply creative and more disordered in many ways. And when I'm the rational one out of the two of us, it really pisses me off. It's not fair. Like, I'm a surrealist, dude. Like, why am I being the rational one?
Yeah, that's not my job.
Crap.
It's not my job description.
I'm going to disassociate and go do weird stuff. Yeah.
So how did this book come about in the first place? I mean, how did they come to you? Did you go to them and ask if they wanted to do a book on you, or? Again,
honestly, first off, it was just, in that synthetic kind of way, I was just book pregnant. I kept talking about it. I felt like I was pregnant with a book. And then I was honestly pregnant with twins. I did the memoir and the book on my art. And now I feel like I still have to get back. I feel like there's a third book in there.
Wow.
So, but from there, I think there's also that idea every time I've painted and then you document the work, it's like, oh yeah, one day I'm going to make a book.
Right.
So, this goes back 20 years because it was every picture I got, I had to be really careful where I put it and not lose the folder and not crash the computer.
Right.
It's your archive. Mm-hmm. And I guess having the pictures is one thing. And the next part is organizing all the pictures.
It's such a nightmare.
So I organized them chronologically and alphabetically. So I feel like those are the two archives you want to have access to. But then also combing all the hard drives and everything to get the fattest file, the best image. And I didn't have a lot of success with scanning slides. That was a big losing moment. I thought I was going to get a lot more higher quality images out of slides.
This isn't reflected in the book though, because I'm going through here and it's like these. That's one.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the one thing I was going to say. I was just looking at it, I was like, the colors are so good. It's like the proofing is amazing because having done 2 books now, I know what can happen if you don't proof a painting correctly, and they all look really high quality. And I like that you made them all big for the most part. It's like they fill, they're nice, big, colorful pictures. It's like they should always be. I've seen books that had small pictures of the paintings. It's like, it's an art book. Why do you have small pictures? Like all of them. You probably know the book I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say. I'll tell you after.
Yeah, tell me after. Yeah, I think, it's also when you're looking at all these art books and like which art books you love. Do you love it because it's a square? Do you love it because it's a rectangle? Billy Shire, being in publishing for over 25, maybe 30 years, he also had requirements that were helpful. I mean, listen to people who are experts.
Yeah,
I'm not going to reinvent the book format just because I want to make something that no one's ever done before.
Right.
He didn't want, I think, the book to be larger than 11 inches because of the average bookshelf.
Yeah.
So it would sit on the shelf. He didn't want any full bleeds. So containing the image to the page, because he felt like when you did a full bleed, you would crack the spine, which damages the life of the book.
That's a good point.
So that was really thoughtful.
Yeah.
And that, again, you listen to, talk to as many people as you can who have made a book and get advice.
For sure. Yeah, I was lucky. I worked with Mackie Osborne. She was the graphic designer. She did the Black Magic book. And so she knows all about that stuff, all the technical aspects, but also just what makes a good book. And so she was really invaluable. She does a lot of like the Melvins stuff for the Melvins. She does cool. It's Buzz Osborne, the guitar player's wife. So she does all their packaging, and she's really, really great. So yeah, it's like, I can't even imagine having done it without someone who had some experience, because I had to get the thing printed myself. Like I had to find a company. She luckily kind of turned me on to this book printer in China called no. No, I'm thinking it'll come to me. But she kind of was like, would talk to them for me because I don't know about like line weight and this and that. And, it's just like, she was really invaluable. Oh, God.
I'm going to look up our printer because I don't even know. Hopefully I won't mess up our signal. Let me see. I'm
going to look up my book too.
I'll do it while we're talking.
Oh, my book's right here.
Yeah. What I can tell you is that the email is China printing for you. So
let me see. Oh, this is the blank book. This is the dummy book. They sent me a dummy book to check, like, the page, the look of the gold. And...
Can you draw on that?
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna do that because it's a thick ass book. I was thinking, that'd be if I did a pen and ink drawing on every page, it'd be kind of, I could probably sell it for a lot. Anyway, so
we agreed. We print in China because it's cheap.
I tried to do it in the United States. I contacted some places in the United States, and most of the places actually say they're in the United States, but they get them printed in China. But I found a place that did it, and it was literally double cost.
Definitely.
And
Same.
I was like, okay, maybe I can like, I got a fucking fly in here. Oh, I got it. Hold on one second. I'm going to put it out. I can't kill flies.
I'm just going to say that these pictures that you have in the background, these underpaintings you have in the background.
What's that?
If you squint, they look like that Salvador Dali, all of the women in the shape of a skull.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe it doesn't look that way when you get close.
Yeah,
but
it does. They're
the same proportions.
They're Medusas. I'm doing two versions. Got to do a commission of a Medusa. Oh my God. Okay. I just did that on 2 episodes ago. Got a fly.
Taking the flies out?
Yes, taking the flies out. Where were we?
So yeah, the printer. Yes. I mean, it's good. What I would say is if you're going to use, if you're not good at design, have an experienced designer. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah.
I Keith Schmedlin. Schmedlin did the design for Chris Cooksey's books.
Yeah. I know him.
Chris and I are friends, so I asked if it would be okay if I approached him, and that was another book that I really thought was done in an outstanding way.
Yeah, I have that book.
The difference is like the Chris Cooksey font is not the Baade font. Like you have to find what font is you.
Right.
And keep, get the look consistent.
And as artists, we want to design our own font even. It's like, I wanted to design my own font. It's like, you can't do that stuff. You just can't, there's like a limit. But what we were saying was, what I wanted to talk about a little bit was, it was twice the amount to do it in the US.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, it ended up for mine being, it cost like, what was it? I had to take, at that point, by the time I got the book printed, the money was gone from the Kickstarter. And so I had to take a PayPal loan out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was like 20 grand, I think. 20 grand or 25 grand. I think it was 25 grand because I had to pay in 2 payments. And
how many did you have printed?
1,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a really high quality book.
Yeah. It's really nice. And it ended up being, it's like 400 pages. It was like, it ended up being,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's why it took you 5 years. Wow.
Well, it's embarrassing and hilarious that she was sending me the PDFs and I was looking at the page number and there's 2 pages to the number on the PDF, 1 and 2, it'll say page 1. And you go down to 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 and it'll say page 2. And so I was reading it going like, okay, I want to get to 200 pages.
Oh.
And by the time I figured it out, it was already 400 pages. So it was like a total disaster, but it's amazing. It's totally, it's just jam packed. I didn't even use all of my artwork, not even near close to all of my artwork. It was perfect. It was meant to be that way. Like my fuck up was a divinely guided fuck up because everyone waited 5 years too, patiently. Only a handful of people got pissed at me. Everyone was super cool. And they ended up getting a book that I'm selling for like almost $95. I'm selling it for because it cost the price after paying everybody and paying the graphic designer and the writer. Because Mike, like I said, Mike interviewed me and then he wrote all the text for me because he's a great writer. Right. It's like $50 a book. It's like a $50 retail. So I'm selling it for like $95. So it was just a nightmare on every level. But
so if you sold all the books, would you break even?
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, what? That's $100 book. So, but I had to. That's the thing. It's like people paid. I charged $40 on the Kickstarter, and it's like a $100 book, really.
Right.
So I had to give 400 of those books were just like the cost of doing business. I got to pay these people, I got to get, I'm not going to like ask them for another $40.
Well, there's overhead,
Yeah. So I just had
photographer.
Yeah.
Or are you paying the writer?
But I had to just eat it because they'd waited patiently for 5 years. So I'm like, okay, and then I had the shipping. It's like a 6-pound book.
Oh my God.
So it's like some of the shipping to Poland is, I'm sure, over $100 shipping. And there was a bunch of overseas orders, and it's seriously been this huge, terrible period of my life that I'm like, just over. I got the book done. I've got most of them shipped out. I'm kind of like, getting I still have some rewards to finish up, and it's almost over. But anyway,
you look great.
I'm happy now.
Wonderful. Like, you have all your hair. You're great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't go gray. It's like it's kind of going gray, but
like one or two.
It was seriously though. Like, I was losing sleep. I was so stressed out, and I got to a point where I was like, I can't. I just have to be okay with this being late, because I can't keep beating myself up over this. I totally fucked up, and there's nothing I could do about it except do my best. And then I had to kind of let it go. So it really was like, there was kind of like this, like I learned how to, I don't know, have grace under pressure, just like let things go, even though the weight of the world's on your shoulders. It's still just kind of let things go when you feel like you shouldn't. So
you didn't dark side at all? You didn't lose your shit?
Yeah, I was like I said, I was losing sleep and stuff.
Losing sleep.
Totally. I mean, I didn't like kill anybody or like wig out, but I was just like, I'm surprised my hair didn't fall out. It was really super stressful, but it was a learning experience in a lot of ways. But
well, I'm going to reiterate two of the things you said. You said, trust in the divine fuck up. And I think that's so true, because when the first writer went insane and I had to fire him from the job, I just couldn't even believe that I was in this situation without like the main writer for the book.
Oh, you had tell me about that.
Well, have you seen the show The Chair? This has Sandra Oh, and it's supposed to be a comedy, and it's supposed to be about academia, but I swear to God, it's like an actual documentary of academia. And I was a little, like, I was on sabbatical going, why am I watching this? And then I flew to this university to meet with him, flew with my own money to like collaborate and get the article written. And I got dropped down into a situation where he was it was screwing up the university and a lot of people. I won't give too many details, but I had to go back to the Sandra Oh show, to The Chair, and fast forward through all the episodes, because the guy in the episode looked just like the guy who's writing the book. And I was like, this is like a really parallel dimension kind of thing. And so I fast forwarded. I'm like, oh, it's okay. He's there's going to be a lawsuit, but he's going to win because he has tenure and everything's going to be fine. And then it turned out my guy didn't have tenure. And so they fired him like somebody who worked at Burger King, and he just totally took his life. And I tried to hold on for a couple more months, but even then it was like, I had to fire him. So it was just, that was one existential crisis.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like kind of a big one.
Yeah, because I had to go through the whole thing. Like, what if there are no words in the book? Maybe it's just pictures. Maybe it's super lowbrow. But I'm like, I'm an academic. I have to have words.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely get all the writing first, because once you're on the deadline for the book and a lot of other people are involved, it's too much pressure. Mm-hmm. And you can't make someone else who's far away from you write a book or write an article.
Yeah.
So get all the writing up front. So the order of that would be, you kind of have to archive your work and have the images, because they can't write about the work without the images.
So right. Which is that's how we did ours. It's like the text was all done, but I couldn't envision it. I couldn't envision how to lay it out and how to do the different sections. But so how did you figure your layout? How, like, what painting goes where? Did you do it chronologically? I mean, you have to have something, unless you're just like putting them randomly in there.
So I don't think I followed anybody for this one. I did it in reverse chronological order. So I started with the newest painting first and the
that's
oldest
cool.
painting last.
That's kind of a cool idea. I like that.
And then I went back into the womb and back into a past life. And somehow that worked for me.
That's a great idea,
don't know.
Actually.
And I will also say the second I got done, I had to just like, there was just a total terror of like, what could have been better? What could have been different? Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, like, it isn't better or an AA plus. So I feel like I have to say this is just my first book. Because if it's the only book, I could have just died on the spot. It was just too much. Like you have worried about every comma, every period, all of the color correction, the size of the image, where things land on the page. You've worried about, been concerned with every single element of the book, including redoing the cover like 9 times. Mm-hmm. Like you go to the edge of relationships going, but could you just do it again? Yeah. Or you get the proof back and I realized 10% of my images need to be reshot.
Oh, really?
And I am now my photographer. I've had great photographers. Some of my photographers have died, and like there was nobody in my region. I live kind of rurally, and like, I don't know, our town of 200,000 people just doesn't support a technical photographer at the level I need. Yeah. So I became the photographer during this project. I bought a mirrorless camera, like a DSLR. Yeah. I'm not a technical person. Yeah, yeah. And I bought the strobes. And we don't watch TV, so I turned the TV room into a designated photo studio.
Oh, that's great.
With an easel, so I could just finish a painting, pop the strobes, and have the work. But then the next level is editing the photo, and I'm not the best editor of the photo.
Did you get the image. Did you get a polarizing filter to get rid of the little shines? Because that's what my photographer asked him how he gets rid of the reflection, and it's like a polarizing filter that you turn it and it.
I would ask if he uses strobes, because if
he uses strobe, yeah, he has
and a polarizer.
Yeah, pop. I think so.
Because I shoot it it makes me so happy. I shoot it in a totally dark room.
Yeah, that's how he does it.
I love that part. And then
and it just, you don't get like reflections from the light?
No.
Huh.
But I also could, there's probably somebody out there who's like, no, Carrie, you have a polarizer on there because I helped you. I brought in technical people and then they just let me go.
It's like a lens that you put on and you can't see anything, but you just kind of turn, if you look through it and if you see a reflection, you turn it a little bit and it gets rid of the reflection. I don't know how it works. It's some kind of magic. But
unfortunately, I probably just use Photoshop.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's part of the process when I get it photographed. Even with the polarizing lens, there's still little highlights, but you just hit them with the healing brush and they just go away now. It's just tedious, but it's easy. But
let me see. Here's another big one. I don't know if you use these words. A content edit versus a technical edit.
Well,
so you get your words and then someone has to edit the content. But if someone is editing the technical part,
right?
Like if you didn't have the content down, you don't need a technical edit. Right. So you have to have someone who's just going to be like, this doesn't make sense. Where are you going with this?
Yeah.
And then you have to have the person with the PhD who really knows how to write.
Okay, so you had those two things. That's pretty cool because we didn't have them, and me and Mike basically did both of those things, and it was like, if he did the writing, and I approved the writing. I thought it was based on interviews, like I said, about each painting. So he had the information from the interviews, and then he just worded it in a pleasing way. And and we did technically we went through, I think, the whole book, I don't know, 15 times.
Oh, sure.
And just made sure. I don't think there's a single error in the book. I haven't found it yet, because he's really good with grammar and stuff, because he's a writer. Okay. So, man, but that would have been great to have. So how do you find those? Did Billy hook you up with those people? Okay.
Billy has someone on his team has a PhD who just happens to be a phenomenal editor.
Oh, that's so cool.
That was a godsend, because I could completely 100% trust her, and it was done in a timely way.
Right.
And Billy covered that. So that was
great.
That was a dream.
Yeah.
I can't do enough for her. And
that's great.
Let me see.
Yeah, these are things you don't think about when you think, oh, I'd like to make an art book someday. You just don't think about all these like little terrible things you have to deal with.
I want to go back to that, like, how much does your book cost? So this is a big one. It's like, how many pages is it? I believe mine is 160 pages. I was able to put in 100 paintings and 3 essays. And, that for me was the perfect, it's like, I don't know, it's not a compact, it's a mid-sized car, maybe, where you have the super SUV limo.
By accident.
I didn't mean to shop prices. I got the first proof back from China and freaked out because it was so bad. It was like when you get the digital images and everything done, I mean, it's like you're popping the champagne. Like, we have a book, we just have to send it to the printer, and you think your job is done. Nobody sat me down and prepared me for the horror that would come next, which is getting the first proof. And it's like your child, but ugly. Like your child, but brutally messed up.
So what was wrong with it? Was it?
Well, this became a big detective issue. I mean, this was like, we got 2 proofs, and I was just like, all the blacks were too black. All the images were way too dark. Everything was slightly acidic. It was really humiliating, because like you painstakingly paint, right, and then it was just brutalized by the printer. We had to go and find other people who had used the printer to get to the bottom of it and find out that there were some codes, that it was like even though it was a Chinese company, it was a Japanese printer, and you had to use a certain code. But I had 400 emails to the printer going, is this offset? Is this the high level? Is this what we're expecting? Like, I tried to ask it in as many different ways to this person named Ellen as I could, trying to be really kind and gentle. And at some point, Ellen said, Madam, you will have to come to China if you would like this book any better than what you're getting. And it was like, God, oh, Ellen, I'm mad at you. So I went to a printer I had worked with in the past. They do like Andrew Wyeth's printing and Ellsworth Kelly's books, and like super high-end printing and books. They're in Philadelphia. They're brilliant studios. And I did get them to generously give me a quote for the book they would make. It would still be made in China, but they would handle everything in a different way. And it was going to be $25,000 instead of $12,000 to make 2,000 books. And I realized one of the gifts of pop surrealism is that you want something that everybody can afford. Mm-hmm. You want something that is easily accessible, that has really pretty good quality, maybe not the Corvette, the top of the line quality, but that's something that people aren't going to be upset about purchasing. They'll purchase easily.
Right.
And so this made a great $40 book.
Yeah.
And I had to remember that and go, okay, as much as we all want the $120 book, I don't think that's where I'm at right now. I have to be humble and honest about it. This is really a supersonic resume. Right. I think this book can open a lot of doors, make new fans, make new connections. Maybe I can win a fellowship, but I don't think I'm ready for that $120 book. And maybe I never am. Maybe that is again, the gift of understanding art for everyone and not just the elite.
Right. So I remember the name of the printer. Global PSD.
Okay.
And it's funny because
PTSD.
global PTSD.
So that's what I felt like.
I got global PTSD when I found out that I had to pay an extra $7,000 due to Trump's tariffs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, I already hated Trump, but after that I was so pissed. It's like, oh, another reason to hate him. But the funny
I was warned about that.
What's that?
I was warned about that.
Yeah. It's funny though, because you go to their website and it doesn't look impressive. It looks like, but it's like they're an industry. You know how it is. It's like they're not it's not like they don't have a website that's made for the average person to go on and order something.
It's very
like,
basic.
Yeah, it's like they're a real bookmaker, and if you want to get a book made, you have to email them and call them and do all this stuff. So they were great though. They did such a killer job with it.
So after 3 proofs, the third proof came back in a way that was like, oh my God, this is the book. This is the book I want.
So
this is it.
They figured out the code issue then.
But it was a lot of phone calling and a lot of me trying to act calm because I was not calm. Like, we did not get this far to die on this hill. You know, if we're gonna have a book baby, it's got to look like the paintings, or we're not going to be okay with 2,000 bad products.
Yeah,
like
why make a book if it's going to look that bad?
And so a lot of my, you practiced letting go. I practiced freaking out from every possible angle. Like, okay, what if there's no book? Can you be okay with that? Yes, I can be okay with there's no book. Can you be okay with there's no writers? Okay, there are no writers. Can I be okay with the 25% of the images not looking okay? Or 5% of the color being off, and like, having to lay on the ground and stare at the sun and like contemplate mortality. And, eventually, I rode my bike thousands of miles and I was fine, but I'm a little high strung, and I could work on letting go.
Yeah.
I don't smoke pot. It's on my list of things to learn how to do. So,
well, I didn't have, the thing is, I didn't have the option of there not being a book because
you were already in.
600 people paid me for a book, 600. And I was like, I could walk away, but I can't do that. I can't do that. I just couldn't live with myself. But
so the problem was then, after they stopped responding to my emails, like, we're waiting for the book to come. We have a solo exhibition with a book release. And at this point, I'm traveling for an exhibition in Indonesia and in Australia.
Wow.
And I'm starting to write Ellen like, hey, we sent everything back. We've approved this. Are we still on schedule? And there's no response for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, this person who's been so responsive the entire time, and it's just nothing. And I'm like, oh God. So then they finally respond and they're like, so sorry. We moved to a totally different city. And she sent a picture of the printer, like a gigantic printer on a crane floating through the air. And I was just like, nothing prepared me for that. Like, I should just stop being shocked. But I was just like, yeah, everything's fine. Like, at that point, like, if we get a book, that's great. Just whatever,
So did you get it done in time for the exhibition?
Yeah, but we could only get 10. They like FedEx 10 books.
Oh,
and then
man.
the books arrived late. But like, that's a totally different issue. If you're trying to get a book and you're trying to get it done on time, like, that's some extra. You better be in a lot of Buddhist meditation, a lot of yoga, and have some amazing people on your team. That's just another level of hell.
Yeah. Especially it's like you've given them a ton of money and they're in China and they can not answer emails for 2 weeks. It's like you're totally at their mercy.
Well, they moved the factory to a totally different city. Like, I just didn't have that in my game plan. So
I remember I sent them the first. You have to wire them, and the thing is, it's like, I'm used to living off of through my credit cards, through my business credit cards. If I need,
I hope you have like frequent flyers with that or something.
Yeah, I do. I use it a lot. I've got an American Express, but it's like if I have a big expense like that, I can put it on the card and put it off for a month. And but with this, you had to pay cash. You had to wire them the money. They wouldn't take a card. So I remember, so I had to get that PayPal loan so I could get the cash into my bank. And then I've never wired money before. So I had to they had to explain to me how to wire it. And so I had to put all the information in. And I remember cause they make you pay the first half like 12,000 and then the second 12,000 when it's done before it ships. That's how they did it with me. And so I wired that $12,000 that it was borrowed, it wasn't even my money. And I was like, oh man, it was just scary, and it's like, I don't even know if I'm doing the routing number correctly. And it's, and then you're just like, okay, hopefully they finish it and I could pay the other 12,000. Insane. It's scary.
That's where having a publisher was beautiful.
Yeah.
That was not the thing I was worried about. I am worried about, like, how do I say it? Like helping Billy make money, helping La Luz de Jesus, so much of my career, it's like you want to break even. You don't want to go in the red. And I feel like, you get the book and you think your job's over and your job just started.
Right.
Because now you got to market and promote the book. Mm-hmm. And, I don't have those skills. And now I have to start all over. so let the learning begin,
Well, I mean, you're a great interview. It's just a matter of, the issue I have, I can do interviews. I'm good on interviews also. I need a publicist, someone that just reaches out and gets you a bunch of podcast interviews, because it's all podcasts nowadays. It's like nobody reads magazines really. So you just need.
I would say, which, if you could give me advice, which podcast should I look to?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know.
Because I did the research and I couldn't really figure it out.
I know. Well, there's not a ton of art podcasts. I'm sure we'll get some, comments on the
if anybody has any suggestions, yes. I'm all ears. That would be cool.
I mean, there are a few. There's like this guy, and that's the thing. It's like, there's podcasts, and then there's people that are big on YouTube that do kind of like video podcasts. And there's this guy Andrew Tischler who does he's an Australian guy, I think, and he does like tutorials, but I see him interviewing people. There's Proco, that guy Proco, they do really good tutorial videos, but I've seen he's had a podcast. I don't know if I think he still has it, but there's not a ton of them. But there might be, because I'm old, so it's like I'm kind of out of touch with what's going on.
I'm just busy. I would love to have time to do all the research.
Yeah.
So I asked a lot of my writer friends how they promote books. And I quickly, one of my friends is a established fiction author, and she was like, well, Christmas season is coming up and you really need to hit all the Christmas bazaars and do readings at bookshops. And I'm like,
yeah, so that's more like a normal book. That's like marketing it like a normal book. And these are.
Yeah. So I totally dark-sided on that. I thought about it and then I went, or I will die. I just couldn't do that. So I switched it because I did a few gallery, if there's an exhibit, I'm happy to have a book event with an exhibition. That makes total sense. But the other one is I'm a professor. So I did many more visiting artist gigs and just flew around and spoke at different universities and talked a little about the book. And if they want it, it's on Amazon, you can go get it.
Yeah. You could also do book signings. That's another thing, you have to travel around with a bunch of books, but that's a good way to sell them. But the thing is, Billy's got the best bookstore in LA.
It's true.
It's that bookstore is the whole Wacko is just like, it's when people come to LA, that's the only place I tell them to go to Wacko, because it's like the dream store. It's got all these crazy toys. It's got just the coolest shit. But their selection of art books is amazing. It's incredible. It's like the best art books, all the best art books. So that's kind of I got to get my book in there now that I think about it. But
That's a good idea.
But that's a really good place to sell your book, which I'm sure he's doing. But yeah, it's like you got to get on podcasts.
I like it. It's a good idea.
I've got like, I did a little bit of promotion. I just haven't had time to really put towards it, but they're like horror movie podcasts because I've got that cool special effects background, so I can like sneak in there. But I would think that there's probably a lot of book podcasts, like people that are into books and stuff, because you are in academia and the writing is really top notch in there, and you've got a lot of text in there about your art and everything. So I bet you could get on like a regular author's book podcast instead of artist podcasts. You know what I mean? I bet you could.
I have to go back to my research because I have pages of ideas of things I'm going to do, and now's the time.
Yeah.
It's summer. This is the time to do it again. But I think it's also, if somebody's going to go into this is, well, like all of art, it's endurance. Yeah. So you have to like run up the hill, run up the mountain, create the book, take a break, promote the book. Because I mean, I've had like 20 events, but I feel like
you really,
hardly started.
Right.
Like, I don't think I've done enough. I feel like, how many books do we have left? Let's keep going. I also want to get it reviewed on Goodreads.
Oh yeah.
Online platform. Another strategy that I need to start is all of the collecting libraries in the United States, contacting the librarians and getting into
good idea.
Art collection, like art book collections.
You can start an account on Goodreads because Mike did this, the guy who wrote the text for the book. You can list yourself as author and be on Goodreads and get the book listed on Goodreads so that other people can like add it to their I want to read this book list or whatever, because you're the author.
I was right about to do that when the school's when semester started.
I know. It's like
a little like getting blasted out into outer space.
I had a book
away from my to-do list as possible.
I had a book signing for my show. I had a solo show and I did a book signing there, which is cool. And I've been on a couple podcasts and I talk about it on my podcast. But beyond that, it's like, here's the other thing. Okay, here's what you need to do, because I need to do this too. I'm sure people that do video editing and shoot video. Yeah. Do like a promo video of the book, and with you turning the pages, you talking about the book, like a 5-minute short, because I need to do that too. And that can, you can put that, you could cut it into clips, put it on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And also on YouTube. That's a big one, I think.
I didn't pay for much marketing. I did marketing through Beautiful Bazaar.
Oh, okay.
I bought a package.
That's a good idea.
Several posts and 2 online articles. So I've only done 1 article, and it's like for a year. So I'll do another one in the fall.
Do you notice that you've gotten anything out of that? Like, did it do well, or can you even tell?
I can't say yet. I honestly, I don't, because I had a publisher, I don't know how many books have sold.
Oh, okay.
So I actually don't have that metric. That would be so much easier to assess. I just feel behind.
Yeah.
And I want to promote, do more. But I can say that the quality of the traffic and the number of likes, I can see the activity. And then when you're promoting the book, you can refer back to the article. So it kind of pays for itself in that way. And I was able to send the article to the publisher. So then Lelus can republish that. So that's been helpful, since marketing books, I hear from everybody, it's just sort of a lost art, and it's
Yeah.
You can, if somebody knew how to do it, you can hardly pay anybody to do it for you.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
just lands on your plate again.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I lost I lost the art. I just kind of like
do you have
started.
any books left?
Yeah. No, I've got a garage full. I shipped out.
Okay.
I think I have 100 left to ship to
Okay.
Kickstarter backers, and I got a bunch still. So I've sold a lot, but it's like mine are only available on my website. It's like totally in-house, 100%, just because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and it's just what I know how to do. But look at this though. I did get it covered.
Oh, nice.
I got it covered in Rue Morgue magazine,
cool.
which is like a cool Canadian horror magazine. Here's the quote they put: "I suffered so much during the process. It was so painful. No way would I have done it if I would have known how hard it would be." That's the big quote they put it in.
That's how you know it's really good.
Yeah, it was born of suffering. So yeah, I feel like I got the ball rolling, and then life happened, and then I had to make money, and I have to do all this other stuff, and I just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it's sort of at a standstill, but I also don't feel like books are a money-making venture. I remember
think that's true.
Alex Gray told me, his big book, the big one that got him, the one from the 90s, early 90s. I forget the name of it, but it's like everybody knows that Alex Gray book. He was like saying, he was the first person to ever tell me you can't make money with books. He's like, he was making $1 a book or something. And it was just like, and that thing, everybody I knew that book. It was popular. I got mine, I think at Wacko, actually. That's the first place I saw it. And
I remember, I think it was in 1996 or 7. I think he was promoting that book, and he spoke at our local library in Colorado Springs.
Oh, wow.
So like, that's a very humble book tour.
Right.
And he was so unusual, like that, he was really so far ahead of his time to be, we're just catching up with Alex now. Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So he was at least 30 years ahead of his time.
Yeah. And when he was talking about that stuff, it's like people weren't talking about psychedelics the way they do now.
No, they were illegalizing the psychedelics. Like, I think it was 1992, I read in Rolling Stone magazine that they increased, the penalty for LSD, like astronomically.
Right.
So it was, not casual anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a really strange time to be promoting all of these human potentials through psychotropics.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Amazing. But I mean, someone, I had a period where I was like, was it even worth it? There was so much hard work and everything. And I heard someone say, the thing is like that, your books, and they weren't talking to me, they were talking to someone else about making books. Your book will be around for, forever, essentially, through your lifetime, being passed down. They'll be, a piece of you and a piece of your artwork that will live on beyond you. Especially now when books are not everybody doesn't do books. They're like more of a rare gem in this world when everything's online, so it's like a physical imprint we will have left in the world after we're gone, which is pretty cool.
I can hope. I hope. I mean, I feel like we're in the post-apocalypse. I used to paint paintings, on copper, and I wanted the painting to last forever. And I was very, very concerned with everything being ethical and archival. And now I just want to get the art out of me, and I don't care.
Yeah.
In the same way, it's like, use charcoal and oil. Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, I think it's important to know what your expectations are. And what, what's your definition of success of your project? a lot of this for me is about making new connections and communicating with new populations and, building more bridges. Let's bring it all the way back around.
Right.
And I live in Florida. The Northern Florida is not a hub and it is not a central market, art market, anything. And so this is another way for me to stay viable and to get the artwork out there.
Definitely.
And I hope, to make new friendships and connections that are lasting and that the book does that for me. But again, I have to do it for the book. Right. So it's not it just getting on, getting on Amazon was super exciting. We did the pre-sale and for a few days, and I have screenshots of it, I was in the top 10 of art because you have different categorizations on Amazon. So I was on the top 10 of art history books and contemporary art books or something. I got in the top 10 and top 20.
Oh, cool.
I beat Frida Kahlo for a minute. Wow. And it was an extremely satisfying moment of validity. I exist. And then it went to 600 or something. And it goes to 6,000 and you're like, okay, not so much validity,
Yeah, but think about it. Okay, think about how when we saw our favorite artists come out with a book, or we see the Giger book or the Frazetta book or whatever. Beksinski has awesome books. You think well, that's one of the reasons you start. That's one of the reasons I started is the Brahm book and Mark Ryden's book and seeing the work through these books. And so people are seeing your book that way, that your book is that to them. And that's really, that's a really special, amazing thing. It's very specific to a book. It's not like being online. It's different. It's more intimate, because it's what I love about art books is that you have a book of all the paintings, a ton of paintings you could look at instead of having one print, or which are prints are cool and on all, and originals of course are amazing, but it's cool to have them all together, that you can look through all of the paintings. It's just its own. There's nothing like an art book, really. It's kind of I guess an art museum would be like an art book, but you can't have an art museum in your house unless you're super rich.
And it's good to hear you say that you've had your books, you've had a book longer than I've had it, because my love for art books is so huge. And I have to be I don't think I've accepted my own book at that same level as adoration for others.
Right. Yeah.
I know my essay I wrote for someone else who might be a burgeoning artist. That's who I'm writing to.
Right. Right.
Is the future. So, that hope, that wish is in there.
Yeah. But I guess that's kind of the point I was making, or I started. I probably didn't make it.
You made a beautiful point.
Okay.
It was beautiful.
But I guess what I was saying was once you make the book, it's you don't feel that way about your book because you saw it being made, but everybody else is seeing your book that way. You know what I mean? So you're all of a sudden you're one of the artists that has an art book out there.
Thank you. I need you to say that. Nobody said that to me yet, so I didn't know. Just been kind of hard.
But how it's like that as an artist, as you have a gallery show, and then prior to the gallery show, you're like, man, I want to have a solo show, and then you have the solo show, and it's I don't feel as special as the people that I used to go to the solo shows because I've done it. It's once you do it, you and see how the sausage is made, it doesn't feel as I don't know. You can't see yourself in the same way, especially when you create all the work and you make the thing. But that's just, we are the only people that have that perspective. With our books, we're the only person. Everybody else is seeing it differently. Everybody else is seeing it in that magical way, which is, it's because the book's not for us; it's for everybody else. Yeah, I
needed to hear you say that.
Oh, good.
Because and I don't want my computer to die, so I'm trying to make my
No
and figure out how to plug this in at the same time. Yeah, I think I got the book done, and I just felt like I did when I was in elementary school, and I sold Girl Scout cookies, and like I just had like I don't even get to go to camp. Like I just need to go sell all these books now. Like there's a lot of books, and it just felt like a lot of small pressure, like getting the book to good homes, getting the book to the right person, making making it matter.
Right.
Because you give a book to somebody who doesn't care, and that's like garbage.
Yeah.
So how do you make all of these points of contact that are going to make a lasting, any impact?
Yeah. You got to find the right person for the book. It's just like art sales. It's like, there's certain people that are going to buy your work, and there's certain people that aren't going to care at all about what we're doing. So it's a matter of going out and finding those people. Oh, you found it.
This is really important.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to run to an outlet. Blah, 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 blah.
No problem. I can edit, or I can keep talking while you're doing it.
Okay. I've got a lot of chords. This is kind of exciting. Okay, here we go. Oh.
They don't mind you doing an interview in the lobby?
They said they didn't. They might now.
Well, we're almost done anyway, so.
Yeah.
You got it?
Okay, we're back.
Okay, cool.
We got a whole new camera angle. Yeah.
All right. It's like a second interview. Okay, let's do another 2 hours. Just kidding. No, it was okay, we're at 1:45. That's good.
Yeah, I'll be 50 next year, and I feel like in many ways I want another 30 years to paint at least. I need all of my injuries in my right arm repaired, and I need to actually start my art career for real now. Like I got all that academic stuff out of the way, and like now what are we going to paint?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the hope.
That's a good place to be, really, Yeah, I mean, in a sense, and when you have an art book, you've reached a certain level when you have an art book, because every single artist I know has art books. We all collect art books. We all value them. It's a thing. Art books are a thing. And it's like, it's a, kind of a rite of passage or just signaling that you've reached a certain level, just like having a solo show or whatever. There's all kinds of different, selling a painting for a certain amount of money. There are all these kind of like milestones, and a book is definitely you don't make a book when you're first starting out. A book comes like after you've got a large body of work, enough to put in a book and a reputation to where someone gives a shit to, let you make a book,
Yeah, I've been showing with Billy since 2006, and then seriously since, 2007 or 8. And I knew he published books, but I never asked. Like I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
There has to be that moment where you're like, okay, now. And that's a very personal decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad I waited. It would have been a very different book if I'd ever done it earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's a trip. I mean, it really, if you're feeling stagnant, if you need some growth, if you want, learning at this level is a huge endeavor. Yeah, thousands of dollars and lots of support. And I do feel like I don't feel like I got done and I never would do that again.
Yeah.
I just feel like a good 10 years would be great. So enough time to forget all the pains of labor.
Yeah.
At the end, I felt like I gave birth to something with corners, and maybe that's not a good idea.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I had such, like I said, I had such a bad time with this book, such a difficult time with it. By the end of it, I'm like, this has to only be volume 1. I have to do another one because there's all these characters. Even I couldn't add a lot of. It's the whole thing with my stuff was like I paint these characters. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just painting in a really naive kind of way, like a kid does it. You don't really think about. I don't think about having like a point.
It's intuitive.
Yeah, totally
it's
intuitive.
A different type of intelligence.
Yeah. And then after I figure out after being interviewed by Mike what the characters were. So after, since I finished my book, I had done probably 3 solo shows, and it's like, oh, there's these new characters that don't know that much about. And so I put volume 1 on it like an idiot. So just because the hardest part was the format for me. So now the format's done. I can stick with the format and just stick the pictures in and write new text. So I do want to do a second book, a volume 2 eventually. And it's like, I know now that I've got a good PayPal. I can get a PayPal loan for $25,000 if I need it. And so I could do it. So I'm probably going to do another one, as much as I can't believe I'm saying that, because it was so bad. But
it was good pain. It wasn't bad pain. It was good pain.
It was bad pain. It was bad pain with with a great result. But I don't know. Your book, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
Thank you.
It's perfect. I love it. I actually can't wait to read it. Like I said, I started reading it, but it's just so good. The colors are so good, and the paint, and it really made me. It gave me a new appreciation for your work too. I already loved your work. I've always been a fan, but kind of getting more into your process and reading it, because I did read some about your process, and it just made me go, wow, this is truly unique work. This is really nobody else is doing this kind of work. This is completely 100% you, and nobody else is doing anything a little bit like it. Even it's totally your voice as an artist is singular. It's you. It's like you did it. That's the thing, and that's the whole point of being an artist, is finding your voice and being good enough to express it in a way that deserves it. It requires to be expressed, and you've done it, and it's all culminated in this book.
I appreciate you saying that totally, because sometimes I feel like I never got over graduate school. This process came from graduate school. I had that, the breakthrough that's synonymous with the breakdown, where you kind of lose it. I walked into my studio and I cut up all the paper, all the images that I loved. And then I started making new images out of it. And it was play. And it was a creative act out of destruction. But because the art world felt impervious, it felt like it was all solved. All the great paintings have already been painted. They've been painted by men. There's no room for you.
Right.
So it was the way I could get in. And sometimes I'm like, well, who would you be if you stopped using, if you stopped being an appropriation artist, or if you stopped using a source image, who would you be? So I do think I need to paint a body of work that is purely intuitive, because there are images. I realize now there is language and images I can't make through this process, but I don't think I want to give it up. I think again, it's like frog spawn. I just want to make multiple bodies of work and keep moving through it. To use Rumi as an example, you don't want to die with the music in you. How can you just get it out and not be locked into one identity or one mode, but at the same time, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't see why you couldn't, I don't know. I don't see why you'd have to me, it seems like that process of doing cut-ups and collage is just, it's, the other thing is it's completely magical. It's totally like the cut up Brian Geisen and William Burroughs cut up method, which is a total magical technique. And to me, it's just a way of I conceiving ideas and using, reflecting your mind outward, because it's like, I don't see a difference between just drawing and doodling and doing it the way you're doing, as far as what you're getting out of it, because you're coming up with the ideas. You see these things, you arrange them, and something is going, this is what I want to say when you put the things together. You know what I mean? So it's I don't see why you'd need to change anything unless you wanted to for fun, which is, really the only reason you should do anything when it comes to art. It should be because it's super fun and you love it. It's like, for me, it's like, man, I'd like to try something like that, And the other thing is, I like how, you're not, you fill in a lot of blanks. I noticed from the collage piece to like a final painting, you do a lot of, you're not just like replicating a collage that you made, and I think that's like a crucial difference, which makes your work so much different than just straight collage work. It's like, I could see me doing this in a way, but not, I can imagine, okay, I could, just as an artist, it's like, oh, it'd be so fun to cut out, do collage, and then paint it, but not pay attention to the cut edges, and really just like fill in all the gaps. So it's like, it looks like its own painting, and just using that as like a rough composition for the painting, it's just exciting. It's cool. I love it. I think it's such a cool technique.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And your painting skills are awesome too. So I'm just super impressed. I love it. I think you did a killer job. I'm going to show it again for people watching on YouTube.
Thank you, Chet. You're a sweetheart. I'm really grateful.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. Look at that. Buy it. You'll love it. It's incredible. Yeah. So thank you for coming on and talking about it. It was super
my
fun.
Pleasure.
Fun to catch up, and congratulations again.
Thank you. Congratulations to you too.
Thanks.
I hope your audience, the ones who want to make a book or now realize they don't want to make a book. I hope you got something out of this.
Yeah, I know. And, we kind of discussed this ahead of time, like, we could sort of frame it as the bookmaking process for people out there, because I know a lot of people want to make a book, and the only people that should make a book are the ones that are like, I don't care, I still want to make the book.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I wish I had this podcast, because I needed to not make every mistake myself. Yeah, but I totally did. Yeah. So they're all mine.
And it's so scary too, when you have no idea the process. It seems so like impossible. It just seems impossible. And then you do it, and then you get the right people to help you, and you realize, okay, it's a doable thing. It's not scary anymore. It's like anything, It
is like I haven't had any of my own children, but I feel like, I don't know, it is like having a kid. Or do you think it's like having a kid? Oh yeah. So.
Yeah. But I mean, painting is like that too. Creating art is like that. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot.
Got to emancipate it and let it have a life of its own.
Yeah. Right.
Put them out into the world.
Yeah, exactly. You try and raise them right, and you get them out into the world. Yeah, I'd love to catch up with you again sometime, not wait as long.
Okay.
Because
my pleasure.
Yeah, I'd like to, I want to do another episode where we're talking a lot of magic and stuff. Art and magic. art and magic, because it's like,
I like it.
I've got a lot of theories about this.
Give me a couple year head start, because I'll say magic is the one where I need to get more written down.
Okay.
And it's part of the memoir, but like,
cool.
How I really do think intuitive intelligence is something, we need to work together to flesh out and have more. I don't think control is the right word, but have more depth and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of our human intelligences, and it shouldn't be feared or ignored or disregarded.
All right.
So how can we use, magic is the easiest word. These nascent powers that can be misinterpreted and misfire. And my hope is that one day we can look back and say that, we're 6 generations into this new level of comprehension or use. Because honestly, intuitive intelligence has been bred out, assassinated out, and not reinforced, and few people had mentors.
Right.
So how do we get to that next level? So I love that. Let's reconvene when I get a little deeper and being able to articulate it.
Okay. It's like I keep finding myself talking about it when I talk about painting. It's like it is the same thing. It really is like, I think it's like all artists are doing it and they don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're doing paintings, but they're doing magic. They're manifesting this thing from their mind, and they're not sure where it comes from. And it's like, that's it.
A few years ago, I did a PowerPoint for a workshop with Amanda Sage on intuitive intelligence. And when I do these PowerPoints, I'll like chew through 20 books and like cram to get to the answers to the questions. And one of the books that was helpful was Evelyn Underhill's book on mysticism. And what's interesting is like mystics, as far as I can tell, don't produce anything. Right. But if you apply it to artists, it's like we're mystics, but we make objects. Right.
Well, that's the difference between a magician and a mystic. It's like the mystic is doing it for purely inner reasons to elevate their spirit, and the magicians are like sorcerers, and they're creating, manifesting things. Okay. It's like that's kind of the differentiation between the two. So it's like the mystics they might get enlightenment, but they're not making cool shit.
The light bulb is just turning on. Yeah.
Right.
I got done with that lecture and I laughed so hard. I looked at the bibliography for The Mission of Art by Alex Gray, and so many of the books that I picked were books that he picked
really?
from the same book. And I'm like, I called Alex. I'm like, oh my God, like I could have just read your bibliography first. You're already there.
Right.
Again,
right.
A man ahead of his time.
Yeah,
so
totally.
It's great.
Yeah. I've been talking about that book with people a lot lately, and recommending it. And I'm like, man, I haven't read it in forever. I need to read it again. But
it's a good one to bibliomancy. You can just open it to any page, and it always feels like it's talking directly to you in that moment.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm going to try that.
Need to be read cover to cover.
Right.
Just leave it on the back of the toilet.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'll let you go now. I kept you a long time. I really appreciate you taking all this time out. I don't know what time it is where you're at.
It's midnight in Poland.
Oh, shit. I'm saying you're all jet lagged and screwed up.
No.
So I appreciate you.
I had an espresso and a tequila.
Okay. Goes two great tastes that go great together. So, okay. Thank you for coming out. Don't hang up. But just say goodbye. You just have to say goodbye to the audience.
Bye. It was a pleasure. I'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.